Hello, I'm Courtney Roach, and I will be discussing nonverbal communication today and the role that it plays in the classroom with students and teachers. Chesbrough and McCroskey 2002 says, researchers define nonverbal communication as the process of stimulating meaning in the minds of others through nonverbal messages, or messages that are non-linguistic or non-language based. Nonverbal communication is very important, not only in the classroom, but in all aspects of life. Anyone can lie and say whatever they want, but nonverbal communication is done without thinking about it. Therefore, it is more truthful than verbal communication. Therefore, in a classroom setting, nonverbal communication is very important because it allows the teachers to know how the students are truly feeling about the teachings. Teachers should pay close attention to student nonverbal communication and use it to help guide their teachings. Nonverbal communication can be perceived by teachers and by students. When a student shows good nonverbal communication cues, then the teacher knows they are doing something right in their classroom. When a student shows negative nonverbal communication cues, then the teacher knows they need to change things up in the classroom. When teachers show good nonverbal communication cues, then their students will respect them more. The teacher will be seen as approachable and receptive to the student's needs. When a teacher shows bad nonverbal communication cues, they are seen as unapproachable and non-receptive to student needs. It is important for both teachers and students to show good nonverbal communication cues to help everyone thrive in a learning environment. The different ways they can do this is through proxemics, which also goes along with space and touch, attentiveness, which also goes along with facial, eye, and vocal behavior, and chronemics, which also goes along with time. The first thing we will discuss is proxemics. According to Chesbrough and McCroskey 2002, research indicates that proximity, or where a student sits on the first day of class, assuming the student has a choice, affects teacher perceptions of students. If a student sits closer to the front of the class, they're more likely to be perceived as a student that is interested in the subject and will do well in the class. Students that sit in the back will be perceived as less interested and be seen as students that will do poorly in the class. Nonverbal communication and proxemics can be applied to all things in life, not just the classroom. For example, if someone likes you, they're more likely to stand closer to you. If they're not very fond of you, then they're more likely to keep their distance. This can help with teacher immediacy too, because this can tie in with the space that teachers use while teaching, which gives the student nonverbal cues. It's important that teachers keep respectable boundaries with their students as to not sin in some way that is inappropriate for a student-teacher relationship. But it's also important that teachers don't seem standoffish to students because they will think the teacher is unapproachable, and teachers are a gift from God to teach. Therefore, they should be approachable, of course. According to Moll, no date, touch is an essential human need. When we shake hands or put an arm across a friend's shoulder, the body releases neurological chemicals like oxytocin and serotonin that feel good, while also inhibiting chemicals that can cause stress. So if a student doesn't feel stressed out in class, then obviously they're more likely to comprehend and focus on what the teacher is teaching. The next topic we will discuss is attentiveness. If students are showing with nonverbal communication that they're paying attention and enjoying the teaching, then the teachers will perceive this as a good thing and will keep teaching this way. But if they see negative nonverbal communication involving students' attentiveness, then they should probably change their teaching methods. According to Kretzer, no date, attentiveness will recognize the value of other people by giving them listening ears, respect, courtesy, and total concentration. This means paying attention to others and not just listening to our own needs and desires, and also giving genuine contemplation to God's word and his call to respond to others. It's important, and even in the Bible, that people should be attentive to everyone, not just their teachers or preachers, but they should listen to everyone. We must pay the most careful attention, therefore, to what we have heard, so that we do not drift away. Hebrews 2:1, New International Version. According to Chesbrough and McCroskey, 2002, teachers who smile and nod their heads and have relaxed, happy facial expressions and good eye contact while teaching are seen as responsive and approachable, and the classes they teach are seen as more interesting and fun. It's also very important that a teacher answers student questions in a timely manner, whether online or in person, and that they don't sound nervous while teaching. This means to minimize the use of ums and uhs. The next topic is chronemics. According to Chesbrough and McCroskey, 2002, in terms of students' use of time, research indicates that the timing of a student's interruption and the rate at which a student responds to a teacher's request impacts teacher impressions. It is important that students answer questions in a timely manner, turn in their homework on time, don't interrupt their teacher, to help the conduciveness of the classroom. Students that are patient and ask questions at the proper time and get clarification to do the assignments properly are perceived in a better way by teachers. He that answereth a matter before he heareth it, it is fully a shame unto him. Proverbs 18:13, King James Version. Making sure that you listen and do not interrupt people is important in all aspects of life and is important to God as well. Nonverbal communication, including chronemics, can also be applied to the online classroom, such as the one that we're in, to make students and teachers feel more comfortable in the learning environment. According to Dixon, Greenwell, Rogers, Stacy, Weister, and Lauer, 2016, the length of time it takes an instructor to respond to a discussion post and the length of that response can create impressions for students about the approachability and warmth of the instructor, as can course design choices such as inclusion of images and color. The teacher also needs to make sure they make good use of their time. This means no rambling, no spending too much time on one unit, etc. In the book, Chesbrough and McCroskey, they say that it's important that you don't teach, stand up and lecture in front of a classroom for longer than 20 minutes because students can't comprehend and pay attention and keep their focus to the classroom for that amount of time. So that's when they kind of check out. So it's important that you don't just stand there and lecture for an hour and a half. It's important that you make sure that you lecture for 5 minutes and then you do an activity on what you just lectured about. And then you lecture for another 5 minutes. And you kind of switch it up so that your students aren't just sitting in one spot and you just droning on and on and on. It's also important to not have a monotone voice because that can be very boring to a classroom. Show yourself in all respects to be a model of good works, and in your teaching show integrity, dignity, and sound speech that cannot be condemned, so that an opponent may be put to shame, having nothing evil to say about us. Titus 2:7-8, English Standard Version. Nonverbal communication is a set of unspoken cues that allow someone to read the truth no matter what the person says. Anyone can lie, but nonverbal communication cues are naturally occurring and therefore are seen as more truthful than verbal communication. Teachers should pay close attention to student nonverbal communication and use it to help guide their teachings. Thank you.